following video is an unchanged copy of the last and only Cutie Laboratories episode to go on my RL Pony channel. Since I've chosen to move the series back to this channel, mostly because so few people seem to realize it had moved in the first place, I'm starting off with moving this episode over. If you already saw it on the RL Pony channel, you will not find anything new here, so feel free to ignore this upload. All pony related content, with the exception of Let's Plays and Cutie Laboratories, will be posted to the RL Pony channel. If pony content from me besides this show interests you, feel free to check that channel out. Otherwise, sit back and enjoy a hopefully somewhat consistent stream of science right here from now on. Hey everyone, before this episode starts, I wanted to take a quick minute to thank you all for being so patient. As I said before in my announcement video, this part of the year is very busy for me as I've been working on very important things.
Play of the game.
Enemy turret destroyed.
So production of this series, and in fact anything pony related, is going to be slow for the next while. I just wanted to ask that you understand and remain patient during the weeks and months when I'm unable to produce more episodes of this series. Thank you, and let's get to the science. When it comes to the main six, you won't find a pony with a more mixed reception than Fluttershy. Except maybe Pinky, but anyway, well, actually, maybe Rainbow too, and Rarity, and Twilight. Okay, never mind. Point being, whether or not you should like Fluttershy is a huge point of contention. Some say she's amazing, some say she's mediocre, some say she's the worst part of the show. I've been in all these camps at one point or another, and it made me wonder, what is it about Fluttershy that we like? We here at Cutie Laboratories are going to answer this question once and for all, or at least until the next Fluttershy episode proves us completely wrong, because that's what the show does these days. Roll the intro. First and foremost, even if you absolutely love Fluttershy, you have to admit one simple, objective fact. She doesn't have much of a personality. She's shy, she's kind, and she loves animals. That is all there's ever been to it, barring one-shot moments that almost never show up again, like her knowing a lot about fashion or not liking babysitting the Cutie Mark Crusaders. And before you go into the comments, typing out those huge English essays about how she does too have a personality and going into massive unnecessary detail about it, don't bother. Her being able to grow a backbone from time to time is in no way acceptable character development, especially when it only happens once or twice a season. Not to mention there's about an 80% chance everything else you try to bring up is just going to be headcanon. But that all being said, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. While the simplicity of Fluttershy's character has led to rather unfulfilling Fluttershy-centric episodes, it also leaves her more open to interpretation. Fanfiction writers have a field day with her, being able to decide for themselves how she'd react in various situations, because the show hasn't done too much with her to make this more complex. We can create our own character development for her on a dime, and it wouldn't be weird because so little has been done with her. You ever notice how pretty much no fan creation can make Fluttershy out of character unless they're pretty much outright trying to do so? That's because we know very little about Fluttershy, and so most theories or headcanons tossed our way about her will fit right in and be accepted by our brain. Whereas with the other ponies, we know enough about them that it's easier to reject headcanons and recall reasons why it would be incorrect or out of character. In short, one of the reasons we like Fluttershy is because her simplicity makes it easier to think about her without being stopped from our fantasies and theories by annoying things like logic. But obviously that isn't the only reason. If it was, why would people who don't care for headcanons like her? There are three other primary reasons, the first of which is the simple answer that we can identify with her. Relatively recent studies show that anywhere from 25 to 50% of the United States population, closer to the latter than the former, are introverted or even shy. Thus, there's a large chance that, whether or not you know it, you saw Fluttershy as a slight exaggeration of how you'd act in the circumstances given. And even if you're not introverted or shy yourself, you may have identified with her particularly well just because you didn't find much among the other main six members to associate yourself with. The next reason comes from how we were introduced to her. You know the saying, you only get one first impression? The way you initially appear to someone will, like it or not, dictate how they feel about you from that point onward, unless your future actions contradict it completely. In the first episode of the show, Fluttershy and Rarity were the only members of the main six to not have a directly negative introduction. Twilight is a grump, Applejack is overexcited with a huge family that makes you wonder if they're secretly rabbits, Rainbow is lazy and laughs at Twilight for the mess she caused herself, and Pinky does not shut up. Meanwhile, Rarity fixes Twilight's mane and dresses her up, while Fluttershy is quiet but friendly with animals, Spike included. So why do we latch so much onto Fluttershy, but Rarity less so? Because, once again, of simplicity. Rarity gushed about moving to the big city and had a major fashionista vibe to her, something that most of our brains would see as a sign of high class, which we tend to associate with other negative things, such as snobbiness or believing oneself to be above others. So even though Rarity hadn't specifically shown these attributes, our brains subconsciously attached them to her. Fluttershy, aside from knocking Twilight aside to see Spike, showed no traits at all that could be generally classified as negative, and so we saw her as the most positive character so far. Assuming we didn't already decide we actually liked another character's negative attributes, that is. And the final reason is because she's cute. Admit it, that's probably the number one reason you like her, assuming you do. It's a known fact that we humans are extremely susceptible to cute things, and this is due to parental instincts growing with evolution. In the past, we would see babies as things to protect and keep safe, so that our species could continue to grow and survive. Over time, this grew so fervent, we began adopting this attitude towards babies of other species, like kittens and puppies, and eventually even just anything cute in general. When we first saw Fluttershy, and every time afterwards where she does something cute, our instincts kick in and we immediately feel attached to her, if not outright responsible for her. Unless you absolutely hate her on a psychopathic level, if an episode of the show had her get hospitalized in an accident, you'd subconsciously feel far more worried for her than you did when Rainbow got hospitalized in Daring Don't, or if any other pony took her place. Pinkie Pie possibly excluded, but that's because her not being bouncy and happy is just something we're not used to, which is an entirely different thing on its own. So what does this all say? It says that, even though almost all of her episodes are about her trying to overcome her shyness and yet being right back to it a week later, Fluttershy is still near the top of many bronies' lists of favorite ponies, and it's all because our brain sees her differently than other ponies. Is it possible for you to just like her of your own accord? Obviously, yes. But everything I just listed in the past few minutes is, like it or not, a contributing factor. Even if you're not a big fan of her, your brain still jumps when she shows up for all these reasons, and unless you manage to remain completely unabsorbed and not immersed with the show, your mind will continue to see Fluttershy's positives, even if you fully acknowledge her negatives. I'm the Science Pony, and as for me personally, Fluttershy isn't even on my top 10 list. Bye now! Whoosh! Boom, boom.